Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another developer Q&A video for Eve Echoes. I do apologise that my content has been a little bit thin on the ground recently. There's a lot of reasons for that. The long and short of it basically is that about 2.5 weeks ago our electricity was disconnected, followed by us getting that reconnected just in time for thieves to steal our overhead cables. That then took over a week to get sorted. If you're interested in hearing the full story, by the way, head over to my other channel, Bulawayo Buccaneer. I have done a video showcasing all of that there that you can see what's been going on with our Zessa. Then, the past week, having just got all our electricity back, Carrie and I both have come down with a ridiculously nasty flu. It's not COVID, but it has knocked us both on our backsides for a week. Also, there's just very little content for me to be showcasing currently in Eve Echo, so if you do have something you would like to see, please let me know in the comments section down below. I'd love to know what you guys want to see content-wise. I'll do some videos and just, showcase what you guys want to see. Anyway, I am going to try and get through this one as quickly as possible. If I do have to stop for coughing, etc., I will try and cut that out. So if there's any weird jump edits and stuff like that, you'd know why. Anyway, subscribe if you haven't already. Please click like on this video. It does really help the channel out. Otherwise, let's jump in with the developer Q&A for the 22nd of November through to the 5th of December. There are some actually quite interesting questions this week for a change. Question number 1. Is it possible to get Concord Pass points by successfully open exploration boxes or analysing 1, 2, 3 crest signals? Actually, the only way to gather Concord Pass points doing exploration is using the online time mission, and it's not very profitable. Yeah, I do wholeheartedly agree on this. I've spoken at length about this in other videos. I have spoken to the developers myself about exactly this and said, look, maybe you could just put random items in those crates that, just kind of appear and then disappear. You don't loot them, but when you open a box, depending on whether it's a difficulty 1, 2, 3 or 4 box, you get a certain amount of points that go towards the Concord Pass, something like that. Kylem here responds, good suggestion. Within the development team, we've been thinking about this possibility, which helps to lighten the load on the player without taking up too much online time. We will discuss with coders the feasibility of adding such tasks. However, obtaining Concord Pass points too easily may cause unpredictable consequences. Therefore, we're still trying to figure out how to strike such a balance. Please understand. Simple, just have so many boxes opened inside Relic or data sites. It's that easy. You've then just got to balance the points for it. And considering how many points you can get through things like PI or doing like combat, you just kind of see how many sites you can get in an hour and then figure out the balance. It should probably be more points per exploration site than it would be obviously per combat site, because a combat site are guaranteed you can grind multiple of them in a row. You cannot do that with exploration sites. There's a lot of RNG there involved. I don't know. This is something that definitely needs to happen because whoever asked this question is quite right. Right now, if you're going exploring, there is nothing in the Concord Pass that is going to help you generate points. None of those missions excuse me, are going to help you generate Concord points in order to complete your Concord Pass. The only thing you can do is have a PI station set up in an outpost. That's what I do, and it does work really well for completing the Concord Pass that way. Alternatively, yeah, you have to use the online time, 15 minutes online, 30 minutes online, and it's just not lucrative at all. It's almost impossible to do an entire week of Concord Pass points with just your online time, meaning if you're an explorer, you need to be delving into other things like running a PI mission or doing combat sites and things like that as well, which just isn't fun. It isn't fun because it's your playstyle and there is no way to be rewarded for doing it. Anyway, let's move on. There's a whole load of stuff I could say when it comes to exploration, and in fact have done in numerous videos, so go check those out if you're interested, like the top 3 fixes for exploration. Anyway, moving on to question 2, forgive me. I have 15,000 and growing science credits that will go to waste because I've run out of items in the store. I'm still doing it to be on the overall leaderboard at the end, but can we please have more to spend this points on again? Yeah, that should be really easy. Just add up the limit of the amount of science crates you can get and stuff like that. It's not hard to add stuff to the store. Please, can we get that? I've given up on doing the science credits because I got everything I wanted, and there's just no reason to go any further. There are no plans for this at the moment, says Kylem. Because players may not be able to participate in the gameplay every day, in order to allow everyone to have enough science credits to exchange for rewards, we actually issued more science credits than what it should be. In other words, more redeemable items equal additional playtime requirements, and this additional burden is unacceptable to some players. What? We'll discuss whether these extra credits can be used for other purposes, but we're sorry this is still in discussion stage. Look, I get it. I get it that on one hand, we've got the whole thing of this is a timed event and it is due to run out later this month. I think it's December that it ends, which I still think is stupid. But ultimately, yeah, it's a case of, like, look, just add options to the store. Like, if it's just skill points or Lazarus units or, I don't know, maybe even things like nanocore materials or implant materials. It's another way to get those through a different way of gameplay, that if players don't want to go for the Enforcer, they've decided they don't want the Enforcer prototype or the other stuff, they could just buy those things. Like, this isn't difficult, guys. This is not rocket science. And as an actual rocket scientist friend of mine said, I don't like that saying because rocket science isn't actually all that difficult. It's just about making big explosions and pointing them in the right direction. But I don't know. Just adding stuff to the store shouldn't be too hard. Stuff like Lazarus units or skill points, nanocore and implant materials, nice and easy, gives people something that they can do to get those. And this event's due to die off soon anyway, and I do hope they either bring back a better version of it or just, heck, decide to keep it on, because it can be fun and some people enjoy this kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Question number 3 then. Oh boy, missile implants. I think the missile implants need a change. Other implants have huge DPS bonuses, but missile implants have very little amount of DPS bonus. We'll talk about that in a second. Also, it needs another button to change damage type. It takes so long to change damage type, also using a lot of neuroactive supplements and other implants. Please check and hope there's something change. I don't know. I don't know. I think, yes, okay, you can sit there and say Barrage has an absolutely massive DPS increase, and it does, but it's limited. It's time limited, whereas the missile DPS boost is flat. You change from whatever to purely electromagnetic, for example, your overall DPS for those does just increase. Then on top of that, if you're being smart and exploiting your opponent's resistance holes, you're actually doing a lot more DPS than it shows, for the simple fact that, well, if you've got, say, 1,000 DPS, and your target has 60% resistance, you're only getting 40%, right? Whereas if you're doing 980 DPS, or 1000 DPS again, and your opponent's only got 40% resistance to that damage, suddenly you're doing a lot more damage. It's not just about the actual numbers that you see on the fitting screen, and this is one of those things I try so hard to tell people, like, you can go for just big numbers on the fitting screen, but it doesn't always translate. You've still got application, and after application, you still have resistances. Like, yeah, if you're an Amar laser guy with, like, I don't know, 2000 DPS from your lasers from electromagnetic and thermal, and your opponent has stacked electromagnetic and thermal resistance, then you're not doing 2000 DPS to them, because that's going to be majority resisted. And yeah, that's something that does need to sort of be taken into account here. As for the using a lot of neuroactive supplements, yeah, I guess it kind of does, but again, so does Barrage. I think the laser implants are what a lot of people kind of just look at and go, oh, well, they've turned a 2000 DPS ship into a 4800 DPS ship. Yeah, why can't my implant do that? And it's because ultimately there are easy counters to that laser one. All you need to do is just stack electromagnetic and thermal resistances, and bam, they're not doing that much DPS. Yes, I know it's still too much. I do agree the laser one needs a nerf. I'm just saying it's not as bad as some people make out. They talk about it being this just ridiculous amount of DPS and application, which it simply isn't. But anyway, let's see what the response is, because I do use the missile warhead implant a lot. The missile implant plays more of an assisting role, so we won't consider letting it directly increase the DPS in the near future. We already have firm plans to add more new implants to increase the tactical richness of Eve Echoes. This will help to achieve a dynamic balance between different implants, rather than making a certain BD too powerful. We'll continue to pay attention to the issue of balance. Please stay tuned. So the answer to this isn't working properly, or it's not as good as the others, is just to add more things? Like, what? That's an arms race. That is literally an arms race. And I think Extra Credits did an excellent video explaining why that is just bad game design. Because you have this whole power creep going on that, yeah, you've spent all that money buying implants, but by the way, now we've got even better implants that are going to help balance the situation somehow. Like, this basically is saying, if you're using missile implants and you want to have something that's as good as the laser implants, for example, we're not going to balance the laser implant, we're not going to change that, we're just going to release a new implant that you have to buy and level up to be equal footing to it. What? That's just terrible. And then what are they going to do with the new laser implant? Just turn around and go, oh yeah, this one's actually crap, but please buy it anyway, just because we want to pretend that's balancing? What's going on there? Like, no, that's horrific. That is terrible design. These implants should have been balanced a long time ago. Their application into the game was awful. The way that they have been designed is just terrible, and NetEase's reluctance to do anything meaningful with them, again, it's just horrific. Like, what are they doing here? I agree the Missile One does need a buff. If you want to put it on par with some of the others, I would argue that actually perhaps the other implants need nerfing rather than the Missile One needing a buff. Use the Missile as the baseline one. It's a fun implant. I think it's a really clever use of an implant. It just doesn't do as much as the others because the others, in my opinion, do too much. Bring the railgun one down, bring the laser ones down, bring the balance, the crystals down. That's what needs to happen here. I don't know. Keep the missiles the way they are, bring the other implants into line, and if they're going to add new implants, make sure they're creative, not just, oh yeah, these are the same thing but bigger numbers, which you can kind of see is what's going to happen here. Finally then, question number 4. Can you please make it so the cargo hold shows the true space available when using cargo hold optimization rigs and the ship is not active? It's pretty annoying to have to set the ship in active just to put items into the cargo hold just because the game thinks it's full. Yeah, try this. If you've got something like, say, a Wreath 2, which I use quite a lot, and you've put cargo hold rigs on it, you can't move stuff into it when it's inactive because it's only using the base cargo hold. When you activate the ship, then it goes, oh, there are rigs fitted, and it expands it. I think this is also the case when it comes to ships that have cargo hold bonuses as part of their skill bonuses. So yeah, it's one of those things you kind of need to activate the ship to actually get the game to recognize how big its hold actually is. Otherwise, it's just using the flat base version of the hold. Now, once you've shoved everything into that hold, you can then deactivate the ship and everything will stay in there. But it is just irritating to have to do that. I do agree. Kylum says, this optimization is currently not available. The main reason is that this feature is actually dependent on the simulated fitting, i.e. simulated calculation of the skills, attributes of the ship, module, rigs, and nanocore, etc. But the optimization of the simulated fitting system is not prioritized due to other development plans. Thank you for your understanding. Basically, yeah, no plan to change that. We designed the game terribly and we don't intend to fix it because we want to add more things like super carriers and new implants to squeeze as much money out of you as possible. That's basically where we're at here. I don't know, I would be a little bit more understanding here if they said that it's not prioritized due to other development plans and those other development plans meant meaningful new content to help, like, you know, help the game, help new players get into the game, more small ship content, more medium ship content, more stuff to help new players actually get into the game and stick around, a reworking of the tech tree, stuff like that. Yeah, I could see that. I would have a lot more understanding. If it was a case of, look, sorry, we are currently redoing the entire ship tree and tech level system, it's gonna be a little bit of time before we can get onto these quality of life changes. But when it's a case of, sorry, we can't do the quality of life changes that are actually just down to us doing terrible programming the first time around, like EVE Online figured this out, why can't EVE Echoes? If it's just a case of, sorry, we can't do the quality of life change because we're currently trying to find new ways to rip you out of your money, I have less understanding towards that. I don't know. Again, maybe that's just me. But that's our dev Q&A. There's our 4 questions. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. In the meantime, I've got a cough that is trapped in the back of my throat, so I'm going to go back and die for a short period of time. Hopefully on Monday I will be back with genuine EVE Echoes content. Dev Q&As are nice and easy for me to record. I can set it up nice and easily, record nice and easily because it's just talking whilst I read. Things like Catskull Academy, ship fitting guides, that kind of stuff take a little bit more effort to go through. So please let me know what content you would like to see in future. Gives me some ideas to work towards. Anyway folks, thanks for watching, happy sailing, and see you all in New Eden.